best get in our body. Everyone put your feet on the floor. All right? Take a moment to put everything down. Allow yourself to feel your feet underneath you. Feel the chair supporting you. Feel your back against the chair. And take a deep breath. Feel the coolness of the air running down into your belly, into your lungs. And you can close your eyes or you can open them and notice the temperature of the room. Notice the temperature of your skin. Drop in and feel your heart beating. And just allow yourself to be present. So the focus for today is loving you. I'd like to start with a little fire, a poem from I Am the Imperatrix called The Year of My Promise. I stand here at the edge of a new cycle, and I let the past speak, not to hurt me, but to remind me of who I am. 2025 tried to shape me through fire, through silence, through moments where I had to hold myself when no one else could. I gave too much, I waited too long. I dimmed my own light just to survive rooms that were never meant for me. But listen to me now. I survived anyway. I learned that strength doesn't always shout, sometimes it whispers, stay. Sometimes it trembles and still moves forward. I learned that pain is not a punishment, it is a teacher. That resilience is born in discomfort, and dignity is something no one can take unless I give it away. And I don't give it away anymore. I remember the woman I was before the world told me to be smaller, before emotions confused my direction, before situations convinced me to forget my worth. She was always here, waiting, watching, becoming. I remember my power now, my intuition, my voice, my right to choose myself. They tried to break me, they tried to soften my edges, to quiet my truth, to make me doubt what I felt in my bones. But I discovered something sacred. Only I have the authority to rewrite my story. So if they call it selfish, let it be. This year, I choose myself without apology. This year, I return to my life. This year, I stopped negotiating my happiness with people that never paid the price I paid. I make a promise to myself here and now. This is the year I live fully. The year I rise intentionally, the year I turn vision into reality. Because I know what I endured. I know what I overcame. I know how many times I rebuilt myself from nothing but will. And I am done shrinking my dreams to make others comfortable. I walk forward with clarity, with discipline, with fire. I honor my past, but I am loyal to my future. This is not the end of a chapter. This is my return. I rise, I remember, I reclaim. I am the woman I was always meant to become. I am sovereign, I am awake, I am the Imperatrix. That's the All right. So the wish to grow. You won't believe the version of you that emerges when you just simply wish to grow. It's soft, but it is powerful. Wisdom isn't the absence of pain, it is pain transformed into purpose. Choose self-love over shame. How were you conditioned to believe your self-worth comes from outside of you? All great teachers have the same message: master yourself. Where are you sitting in comfort that is hurting you? You know, the poop. It's warm, it's familiar, but it stinks, right? The answers are in your body. Listen more and speak less. Move your body. The body holds pain that needs to heal, pain from loss, pain from hurt, pain from neglect. Acknowledging the body, not to rehash old events, but with the intention to observe and allow it to be seen, to flow forward and out. Check in with your body just for a moment. Do you feel a tightness in your throat, a heaviness in your chest? This is where you start to recognize your needs, where you were designed to experience freedom. We're getting reverb. Your body was designed to speak to you and to help you heal. Do your work. Go inward and ask the hard questions and allow your body to answer. How was I conditioned to believe that I'm not enough? How do you start to love you? Build your toolbox. Here we are. Start to pull it in. Stop giving away your time to anyone or anything that does not add to your peace, and give it to yourself. Stop trying to earn what you already deserve. Stop trying to earn what you already deserve. When you stop and look outside of yourself for love and validation, you become untouchable. Stop allowing others to starve you and feed yourself. And everything else becomes a choice and a bonus. Start treating yourself as if you are someone you're in charge of taking care of. Self-love forces you to face the ways that you have abandoned yourself to be loved, to be chosen, to be seen. What if you are the love of your life? How would you treat yourself now? How would you protect your beautiful heart? How would you trust yourself? How would you show up with you on your arm? How would you talk about yourself? How would you treat your body and your mind? You are the beloved. You are the love of your life. So some pearls of self-love: discipline, practice, breath, sitting in silence, moving your body, observing yourself, initiating loving detachment. It's time to live your most authentic life and make that stuff, that poop you've been sitting in, into compost. That's right. Black gold, honey. Being ready isn't a feeling, it's a decision. This is the year you free yourself from what has held you back from your authentic, beautiful soul. You are the magic. This is your year, your promise, your one life to give yourself the greatest gift: loving you.
Hi, everybody. Oh, I can turn it up a little bit. Is that closer? Yeah, I'm a little bit taller. Joy. Wow. Thank you. That was really a cool place to start. I mean, honestly, when we talk about what it is to be healthy, what love is, what all these things are, I mean, she just grabbed that really, really eloquently. Thank you. That was really cool. So, my name is Gwen Diaz. I'm an Ayurvedic doctor. A lot of people are like, and are you what? So I want to just kind of clear that air for a second. An Ayurvedic doctor is a natural medicine doctor. An Ayurvedic doctor comes from deep traditional medicine, maybe across the other side of the world in India. But the idea of taking care of ourselves before disease enters the scheme of things, that's what we do. So we talk about all the things we saw in that movie. You know, we had all the good food, all the good like atmosphere, all the good love that comes from what does it take to be healthy. And I have to take just a minute because it's a bit of a soapbox for me. You know, this movie is great. Trust me, there's all sorts of relevant information. But in the modern world of medicine, um, let me step back for a second. So I started down the path of medical school, traditional allopathic medicine. Um, I had a moment somewhere in that said, I don't know if I believe in this, at least for me. I don't believe in not having modern medicine. Trust me. The people that are going to put your arm back on when it falls off, those are the people you want on your team. When you are having a heart attack, you want those people to be there. You want the modern medication. It does save lives. So I'm not defending all the practices that happen, but I would like to say that this isn't an us against them kind of world. This is, I want to have the best of both. And what I want to do is understand when the time and place is to have good medicine. Go to the doctor. If you have a bacterial infection that has gone rogue into your body, trust me, my herbs can't touch it. I really want you to go to the emergency room, right? I want you to know when to take care of what and how to make good decisions. So, my talk today is about prevention. What is prevention? I don't think that in our world we've yet really to define that. Modern medicine says, go get your mammogram. Okay, go get a colonoscopy. Those are great ideas. We have really cool tools to look inside the body to prevent what could be a long-term debilitating disease. That's what it is designed for. Modern medicine is so cool at detecting that. You know, being able to look at a blood panel and know what's in there long before the physical symptoms that we feel show up, right? But really to understand what happens to us when right inputs go in right body with right mind in right space. That is where we talk about prevention, right? I know a lot about nutrition. I know a lot about herbs. I know what they do in their body. I know how to help treat disease in the body. I also know that there is an entire other conversation about how we look at prevention. What do we really know about managing symptoms? How about we think about feeling those symptoms long before they become necessary to manage? I'd like to just kind of give people the perspective of where prevention has come from in indigenous medicine, traditional medicine, comes from a lineage of people. We had Vedyas. Vedyas are like doctors that looked at human body, that looked at balancing systems, that found homeostasis. That's how they prevented disease. And yes, they did look at disease too. I mean, Vedics and Ayurvedic doctors were some of the first people that ever did surgery. This was 5,000 years ago. It's really cool science, right? This isn't something new. This has been ongoing since we've evolved as far as we have, right? So modern medicine, yeah, they did learn a thing or two. They really did pay attention. A lot of our pharmaceuticals, they end up coming from nature. Did you know that so many of our pharmaceuticals that do save lives and that do take care of people, do you know they come from plants? It's really cool biochemistry. It's really neat what happens in those molecular bonds in the body, right? No need to geek out. What I'm saying here is that this is really an important difference. Modern medicine is very much well done. Yes, the system of delivery, yes, the people that control it, and yes, the dollars around it, those are absolutely part of the problem. But modern medicine, no, it's an evolution of science. It's proven over and over again. Hey, when you can put parts and pieces in a knee and be able to walk again, I'd call that winning. Like there's really cool stuff there. So the other side of that conversation is people like me. You know, I went to school and I thought, I really don't want to hammer things into people's like legs. I just don't dig it. I'm not a surgeon. But what I did learn is that what I do dearly appreciate and want to share with everybody, I want to know what it's like to feel disease in my body. I want to know what it's like to pass through, watch clearing happen. We've talked a lot about that these days. what it feels like to be healthy. We don't wait for a symptom to come up. That's called damage control, right? I have a headache. I take an aspirin. Headache goes away. What's causing that headache? What do we do in that place to know how to not keep getting frequent headaches? Is it nutritional deficiency? Maybe. Is it you stayed up and partied too hard the night before? Maybe. Is it many other things that it could be? That's where the good, juicy conversation is. How do we take care of ourselves before we get the headache, before we have heartburn, before it turns into GERD and we burn the esophagus in our throat? How do we take care of ourselves? Through the food we eat, through the rhythms that we digest. If we look at nature, we look at the response and how symbiosis, homeostasis, all of these things, they go hand in hand. It's like the tango in our body, right? We want to have like prevention be that dance. Not any one of you has the same constitution, has the same DNA, has the same genome, has the same anything. So how can we say what one diet is right for everybody? I think that we should talk about how individualized this can be. Yes, fruits and vegetables are good for you. Just like this said, please eat more fruits and vegetables. That's the only diet we can start with, right? Good news. It's out there. Mother Nature grows it, right? But what do we need? We need to dial in. How do we know what feels good? I can tell you feeding somebody one giant kale salad is going to be great for this guy. For this guy, it may not be what he needs right now. He might need meat soup. He might need bone broth that's healing whatever's leaving in his insides. We don't know, right? So we don't want to like put into categories what's healthy, what's not. Individualized medicine prevention is knowing self. And so my job as an Ayurvedic doctor is to teach you how to know self. And that's not just, okay, I have to eat khichdi these 5 days and go to the bathroom really well, and then I'm cleansed. That's what I'm doing this week for a whole bunch of people. It's a starting place. It's one of those to clear body, clear mind, clear pathways, clear hearts. We have health when we incorporate all of those. And not one of us has that same path. So we can't put ourselves in these boxes, right? These boxes that say, if I eat this and then my cardiovascular risk goes down and this and that, okay, maybe. But really, if you feed to people just like on the movie was, niacin in high quantities, I don't know if any of you have ever tried that, but just a side note, it hurts. It flushes your body, right? So most people turn bright red. It's not something you really want to do. So take it with a grain of salt. Vitamin C therapy, absolutely great. Time and a place, right? Know thyself. Back to knowing self really is what prevention is about. And through Ayurvedic medicine, through what I do in my practice at Origins Health, I see people here, I see people all over the world. I work with different specialists to help prevent disease in the body. One of my probably prouder moments is working with oncologists. These guys are going through cancer. There's doctors that know a whole bunch of cool information on what cancer happens, how it works in your body, where it goes. I want those guys on my team if that ever happened to me. And what they want me on their team for is to keep it from coming back, is to keep your body, hey, you know what? Sometimes you need to just go blow that up, start over again. Chemotherapy is really good at that, right? And a lot of cancers are very treatable. What's more important is there's a lot of ways to keep it from coming. If you ask any cancer patient, what's the worst fear they have? Have it return. Have it return, right? It puts our life into perspective a lot. So what I really like to do and what I really take from that kind of situation and adapt to general practice. These are lessons and learns and knowings that we don't always get taught. We didn't have growing up. Did we have Fruit Loops and like microwave waffles? Yeah, I had some of those too. Does it mean that it's going to kill me? No. It is part of the conversation in the body that says, there might be better choices for me, but in that moment, it is what it is, right? So understanding prevention from good inputs. Let's do that, right? Let's do inputs to where there is There's right space, right moment. There's nothing that could be a medicine that also couldn't be a poison. So what we learn is how that works in each of us. And what I want you guys to take away from today is prevention is an entirely different conversation than medicine on reacting to disease. They do theirs really well. Let's have a conversation of what prevention does really well for us. Thank you, guys.
How's it going, guys? Thanks so much for coming out today. Just so grateful to be here with all of you. And Vasi contacted me a few months ago, 3, 4 months ago, and had this idea, and I thought it was brilliant. And she got me on board, and just so grateful again to be here. I think health and taking charge of our health is one of the most empowering acts we can do. And yeah, so thankful for her. We got to watch Food Matters. Did you guys, some of you guys to watch it? If you haven't, highly recommend. It was incredible, so powerful. And a lot of what the other speakers said, Joy, you're amazing. Thank you so much, Gwendolyn. Whatever works for you, ultimately we know that. So my story starts about 20 years ago, a little further than that. I just turned 40 in November, and I grew up on the East Coast. And I was about 15 years old when I contracted Lyme's disease. And man, at that young age, it was crippling for me. For many years, I suffered joint ache pains. I couldn't even run, severe fatigue, all kinds of things that just were so hard. And so I really believe, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and that the things that happen in life, like she said, are things for us to transform. And so the Lyme's disease to me was absolutely a gift in disguise, one of the hardest things I've ever dealt with. So anyway, that was the beginning of my journey. I was about 15, suffered for many years, went to college, moved to Philadelphia, and I started to plant some seeds. I started to change, and the first thing was the food. Food matters. So I started to integrate whole foods into my diet. I grew up on the standard American diet. I was eating pizzas, cheesesteaks, fast food. We did eat home cooked meals, but none of it was organic. And so I moved to Philadelphia and started to transform and started to feel alive. I was going to farmers markets. I joined this food co-op in the city. It kind of like reminds me of Indigo Autumn. They had the bulk stuff. It was organic, local stuff. And I just started to really feel alive again after so many years. When you're young, you should feel vibrancy. You should feel alive. So that was the first step. And I realized, wow, feeling good. It's all about eating healthy. And so that was the transformation. That was the beginning. Then over the years, I would say I started to do the inner work, which is the second piece. We're going to work this way up. So my talk kind of got into a little quick. The Journey Home, a guide to healing and returning to our true nature, which is healing. That's what I believe. So started off there, then I started to do the inner work over the years, just kind of spending time to look deeper within myself, because it's not only the nutrition, it's not only the lifestyle, it's our stories. It's what we believe about ourselves, things that got passed on along the years, that unintentionally, that family doesn't even know about. So that was the shift. It was a wake-up call. I started to feel more alive, and I realized that it was all about within. We have it within ourselves. We don't have to look without, and we're returning back to our true nature. So I'm going to go over the kind of protocols that have helped me over the years, the things that I'm learning, and kind of set a foundation. So imagine it from the roots to the top of the tree. How do we come back to our true nature? What are the pillars that really work for me? And so the first thing is clearing that static, right? It is getting rid of the noise. So we all talked about the breath today. Why don't we, I do training, I do coaching with people. The breath is one of the most important elements. Why don't we take 3 breaths in through our nose, out through our nose. So here we go. We're going to take 3 deep breaths. And 2 more. One more big one. Hold the last one for 3 seconds. Perfect. And you feel that shift. The breath is the anchor that immediately pulls our biology out of survival mode. It taps us into our peace, right? So the breath is our most powerful tool we have. And science shows slow breathing physically stimulates the vagus nerve, which immediately shifts you out of fight or flight back into healing. So whenever you're feeling anxious, overwhelmed, your breath is the number one asset. Then, clearing the static, we got our self-love and affirmations. That's what this whole event today is about, right? It's about coming back to ourselves. And I'm going to be real with you. Growing up, I had a lot of guilt, shame, no confidence, and I should have. There was no reason. You know, we grew up in these systems, we grew up in this world, judgment, comparison. The East Coast can be a rough place. It's also beautiful. But it wasn't me. It wasn't what the creator or what our design is supposed to be intended by. So our words are biological instructions. Through neuroplasticity and epigenetics, positive self-talk literally can carve new neural pathways and turns on healing and health promoting genes. So be kind to yourself. You're worthy, you're deserving. We all come from that. That's the next step, is being kind to yourself. Stopping that internal attack. So I'm learning affirmations, starting the day. Everything is working out perfectly. I'm worthy. Everything that I need comes to me. I'm deserving. I let go of anything I don't need. Reminding yourself of these affirmations literally reprograms. It does work. So whatever that may be, write them down. What works? What sounds fun for you? Reading this book, The Game of Life, came out in 1925. Brilliant book. Florence Shin Novelle, or is her name? And she goes over all these cool affirmations. So back then they knew about metaphysics and the power of the words. And she brings it all back to source, spirit, God, whatever you want to call it. So stopping that internal attack, science shows self-criticism triggers a physical threat response. Self-compassion, on the other hand, releases oxytocin and instantly lowers your heart rate. So be kind to yourself. Thank yourself for making it this far in life, for all you've been through. We've all had our journeys. You've made it. So that's the first thing, clearing the static, breath work, self-love and affirmations, and being kind to yourself. Now we come into honoring the vessel, which a lot of today is what we talked about. I was also mentioned clearing the static is letting go of stories that aren't yours. Joy mentioned, you know, what are the stories that we have and where did it originate from? Look deep into that. It's not yours. So honoring the vessel, that's the next thing. I'm a movement coach. I do personal training. That's been my therapy throughout my whole life. If I don't go for a bike ride or go for a walk or get my feet on the ground, I'm feeling so overwhelmed. So just moving your body. My wife, Diana, she works with me and sometimes she doesn't want to, I don't, and then she does it and she's like, thank you. That was just what I needed. So the movement, exercise is about keeping energy flowing, not just looking good. We mentioned that, right? It clears energy. It moves your lymph system, moves your blood flow, gets your heart rate up. It's how we're supposed to be. So just whatever movement works for you. It could be bike rides. It could be walking, hiking, stretching, anything at all. Make that part of your daily routine. And here's the other fact. Science shows that contracting muscles, just kind of getting those muscles working, releases myokines, and scientists literally call them hope molecules because they act as natural antidepressants. So you've heard that exercise is the best natural antidepressant. I truly feel that. When I get out after my bike ride, I feel transformed, or a workout. And then, of course, food matters. The next thing is food. What works for you? Bioavailability. What is the diet that works for you? It's different for each of us. it was really interesting in the movie. He mentioned, he said 51%, so very precise, should be raw foods. And I believe that. A mix of raw cooked foods is great, maybe mostly plant-based. I was plant-based for a while, and now, I do eat animal protein, and I think it's beneficial. We live in a valley. That's the key. If you're sourcing animal protein, grass-fed, pasture-raised, local, in moderation can be highly beneficial. And giving thanks for that animal is truly important because we are taking on that life. So that's powerful. But what works for you? Your diet. We live in a valley. I don't probably need to go too deep into the food. You guys are doing amazing. Watch that movie, Food Matters. 95% of your serotonin, the happiness hormone, is produced in the gut. 95% of the serotonin is produced in the gut. Some call this the first brain. So eating real foods is going to feed your state of mind when you take care of your gut. I'm a big fan of fasting, intermittent fasting. Giving our digestion a break from all that is powerful. So foods are super important. What works for you? Hydration, of course. Drinking living water. Your body is an electrical system, and the minerals are the physical conductors that keep them charging. The water helps to eliminate, to hydrate. We have great water here, and then there's levels to the water, right? I go sometimes to the spring, getting spring water. If you have a well, that's amazing. That's truly living water. But did you know that you can restructure water? Because water is a live element, and when it goes through pipes, when it's treated with chemicals, it can be essentially dead, they call it. Still is great, it's going to hydrate you. First thing you could do is set an intention with it. Thank you, water. I love you. Thanks for healing me. Thank you for taking care of me. But then there's other levels where, adding maybe a pinch of salt and maybe some citrus, whether lime or lemon, that's going to help make it more bioavailable with electrolytes. Then I've been getting into this. There's studies and research vortexing it. So it comes out of the pipes. I've been putting it into a glass jug, twirling it, spinning it, because in nature, the rivers are flowing, right? It's always moving. That's structured water. So when you vortex it clockwise for 30 seconds, put your little bit of salt in there. You could put it on the earth and in the sun for 20 minutes. Now you've restructured your water and you have a living water that's going to be more bioavailable to you. So water, she's always called me the water pusher, my wife, because I'm always reminding people, did you drink your water? Drink your water. I talked about in the movie, 1 to 2 liters when you get up. I have a big mason jar ready to drink. I'm drinking 1, 2 of those. Then I'm going into my herbal teas. So get your water. Give thanks for it. Water, we are made of water. It is the life source. So water, honoring the vessel, foods, and then of course, sleep. Giving the body time to rebuild. We all know the importance of sleep. I don't got to go too deep into it. But in deep sleep, the glymphatic system activates and it literally washes away metabolic waste and toxic proteins from our brain. So the healing power of sleep, we have such a beautiful design. When we get our sleep, you feel like $1,000,000, right? But how do we set ourselves up for good sleep? It's kind of putting those blue lights down a little bit early if you can. It's taking care of your body through the other ways that's going to enable good sleep when you exercise, when you're eating well. And then it sounds, again, kind of a little crazy, but we didn't live with Wi-Fi for thousands of years. And in the last 20 years, it's blasting everywhere. It doesn't hurt to unplug your router at night. I do it every night because that's non-organic frequencies that mess with us, potentially, right? So why not unplug it? It could potentially help. Really nice herbal teas before bed, magnesium, things like chamomile. I make a nice, beautiful rest and restore blend. It has chamomile, lemon balm. So the herbal allies are powerful, and that's the next part. But getting your sleep and setting yourself up in this modern world to try to make that a priority. And then 2 other parts. We talked about clearing the static, the body. The next part is actually the last part is the earth and the spirit anchors. So, you always hear mind, body, soul. I truly believe that we have to encompass all these things to feel our best self. So grounding. I tell all my clients, my family, when I learned about this years ago, it was powerful. How many, do you guys ever ground, walk on the earth barefoot, touch a tree, go next to the water? You feel something instantaneously, right? The earth is giving us free healing negative ions all the time. Negative ions from the earth, from water, from nature, from the sun. And then you have positive ions, which are from our phones, from EMFs, from Wi-Fi. So people are feeling a lot these days. That's going to be a huge anchor, is grounding daily. Springtime, put your feet on the earth, get out there, get in the sun, breathe, drink some water. You're going to feel incredible. So stepping away from the screens, it's all about balance, right? And get your bare feet on the earth. The fact is that the earth carries a negative charge, absorbing those free electrons, physically neutralizes free radicals, reduces inflammation. And if you look it up, earth and grounding, it does numerous benefits, circadian rhythm, you name it. So the earth is a healing tool. It's right there. I went to the river. That's even more powerful. When you go to water or salt, next level negative ion charge. And then the herbal allies. So I started a brand about 3 years ago, inspired by my wife, Sacred Mountain Botanicals. I create tea blends, different blends, and then I also last year got working with the beekeeper. I'm working with a local beekeeper, so raw honey, infused raw honeys. But the herbal allies have helped me so much through the years. When I had that Lyme's disease, I started getting into teas, and in the movie, it talked about antioxidants and minerals, and herbs are a great way to get that, guys. Simple. Make some tea, put some honey in it. It's amazing. Tastes super good. So we don't have to heal alone. The plants are our natural allies, and there's so many plants around here. There's so many farmers. So the plants can really help us. The herbs is a great way to get that. Plants contain complex synergistic intelligence. Adaptogens interact directly with our brain's receptors to actively stop biological stress response. So all my blends, one of my favorite herbs is Tulsi. It's considered an adaptogen. Adaptogens go in and they say, what does your body need? Is it stress clearing? Is it energy? Is it heart health? Or on the energetic level? And it's going to help you with that. So adaptogens are your friends. Ashwagandha is a great one. There's so many beautiful plant allies. So the last thing is, as I mentioned, connection to God and spirit, whatever you want to call that. I grew up Christian, and it's been a foundation in my life. I would say that I honor all that, but I do truly believe that that we are part of that. There's a source intelligence that's there for us all the time. It lives within us, it lives within everything. And reminding yourself that you're never alone, to tap into that, because you have that power, and that's where the healing comes from. That's where the miracles come from. That's where the true intelligence of who we are. So the fact is, science facts, deep gratitude and prayer creates heart coherence, which synchronizes your heart and brain waves to accelerate physical healing and boost the immune system. So we're part of all that beauty. So don't forget where you come from. So the return, bringing it all back, the true meaning of self-love. Caring for the physical vessel isn't selfish. It is simply honoring the greatest gift we've ever been given. Taking care of your vessel isn't selfish. It's the ultimate foundation of your strength and your freedom. The final reminder, whatever you're going through or what anybody's going through, you're never broken. You might be covered up by the static noise of the world. Honor your body, celebrate the small wins, and choose yourself every day. You are so worthy. You are divine. Let's keep growing together. Events like this, supporting each other. When we're healthy together, guys, we can make changes in the world. We can help the world. We can change each other. If you have any questions, I'm always here to help you. I'm just grateful to be part of this amazing audience and community. And yeah, I do have some local teas, local honey, and just grateful for all of you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being yourself. And stay healthy. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Right. How's everybody doing out there? Okay. Hi, my name is Arlen, and I am a Somasource leader, which is a movement facilitator trained to help you transform through dance and through movement. And I am a Wayfinder life coach, which is life coaching, which turns inward to really find your true path and your essence to take you forward towards your joy. And thank you so much for being here. Thanks for our other speakers, and just it's sweet to come together in this way. So thank you. And today I want to talk about the action gap between what we think we want to do and what we end up actually doing. We've all had things you intended to do and not done, or things that you really intend not to do, and then suddenly you're doing it. So what's that gap about? What's going on there? And I just want to play for a second. So if you have something in your hand or something nearby, you can pick it up and just not going to drop it, not going to drop it. Say this over and over to yourself. I'm not going to drop it. I'm not going to drop it. I'm not going to drop it. And at some point, just let go. I'm not going to drop it. I'm not going to drop it. I'm not going to drop it. I'm going to drop it. So the mind and the body, this is ACT therapy. We can say something and do something else. There's a gap there. In some ways, that's a really good news, because you haven't visited inside my head, but it can be really chaotic. And I'm sure in some of the rest of us as well. So that gap exists can be really good news, and we can work with it. And like Vincenzo was talking about with the intentions, and just like making sure to pay attention to that level as well. But I want to talk right now about the nervous system. And so we talked about that for a second as well. So we have the vagus nerve. It comes down here behind our ears, comes together, and it connects into our digestive system. And it's the biggest nerve in the body. And there's the polyvagal theory, which is like a simplification of nervous system. And I'm going to go even like more simple than that. And so this isn't the full biggest picture of truth, but it does give you a snapshot. So the fight, flight response, we get stressed, we come into like, and so we were designed, evolved to be able to react to stress. So something happens, and now we either need to have all the resources in our physical systems available for fighting it off or running away. It really it's brilliant. It's designed well. Now we can use all of our resources, but we are no longer living in that world. And so it happens. Something gets triggered, and now are we running? Are we fighting? Actually, it was just somebody honking at me, and like, what do I do? Like, okay, and now it's like in my body, that activation. And then there's also the level, if a big animal was going after you and you were evolved to also freeze, totally flop, and to make the animal be like, yeah, I want to go for a healthy beast. I don't want to go for this thing that is already dead. And then the animal, if it survives that, would climb back up and it would shake. And this is part of why I love a good shakedown, is because we are designed to be able to release that stress and come back into homeostasis. And so there's also humans are designed and evolved, and we have this amazing, brilliant technique of fawning. So that is like this combination of the freeze response and the fight and flight, and it basically like immobilizes our personal desires. And like we come into a place where somebody is in authority, it immobilizes us. So we no longer, like, it numbs out us and our personality and kind of our wishes and desires. And it gets us hyper vigilant to see what they need and want. So now we're in the fawning response. It's this like complex both. And so to make it a little more personal, like maybe go in of like, okay, I want to raise. I know how much I want. This is what's going to happen. And so you go in, but the person in authority, you don't quite feel safe with them. You don't quite feel comfortable. You go to ask for the raise, and fawning kicks in, and suddenly you don't ask for the raise and you take on more work. And you're walking away and you're like, whoa, what just happened? The nervous system thinks that it's helping. It's trying, right? Of like in a place where that made sense, we're not speaking up was the matter of life and death. We are social creatures. This is evolved in us for an intelligent reason. That doesn't mean that it is always intelligently used now. So just knowing like this is some of that gap, like the nervous system can come in and it takes over our actions because that is what we were designed to do to be safe. So what do we do about this? So nervous system reset right now, if you're willing, just a little bit of shaking. That breath that we were invited into earlier. One of my favorite things is gentle humming and pretending to chew. Right? Like a little bit silly. And like if you have enough free attention to hum and chew, like you can kind of look around at your environment like, okay, yeah, that big animal, it's not here. I can hum and chew. Like clearly we are safe enough to hum and chew. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And so with the nervous system, again, it's not about necessarily like, we're not talking about overriding the nervous system. We are talking about how do we reset so that we know we are safe. That breath, that feet on the floor, that feet on the earth. Because when we get in that fight flight, it's stress, and our system starts like carrying that load of stress that doesn't know how to resolve. And this is part of why, for me, the dance, and part of why the shaking, and why the laying on the earth. Like, okay. So the other thing I've been studying is internal family systems, which is a therapy system. We are an ecosystem of parts. It holds that to be true, an ecosystem designed to actually stay at homeostasis. So if there's like a thermostat, it's like set at 74. You're like, actually, that's a little hot for me. But your thermostat is like, oh no, like this is where we're going. And so things that hit you out of that thermostat range can set you off because it is shifting out of what you know to be the range. And some of this is set in childhood. And so the thermostat is set in a way that maybe isn't healthy for us now. And how do we work with that? And a quick experiential exercise. In your right hand, I want you to see, sense, feel, imagine the voice of authority. And you might get a full image. You might just get like a feeling or a weight or a color. And just get curious about that for a second, the voice of authority. And in your left hand, what rises in equal and opposite force to counter that voice of authority? So this might be the wild child, it might be the fighter, it might be the rebel. It'll be different for each of us, but like an equal and opposite force. And so I haven't been practicing as much as I would like on my drums. But if the voice of authority says, I command you to practice drums, guess what happens? The rebel, the fighter, equal and opposite force. Like maybe you can make me once, but I got tricks and I got skills, and I'm going to keep you up in the night, and I'm going to make your back hurt, and I'm going to make you pick a fight with somebody you love because that like totally messes you up. And what else can I do to like fight that voice of authority? And like, nah, this isn't happening. Each of us has our own way, but when we get into that, I command you to do this, I've seen it happen so many times where the equal and opposite force rises to combat that. So another shake it out, let that go. What if instead you drop in, maybe it's the heart, maybe it's your abdomen, and invite love and compassion all the way in, all the way into your system. Invite the voice of love and compassion. And it speaks something like, I know practice is important to you, right? I know that. Yeah, it's important. How can we be safe enough that you feel comfortable doing the thing that you know matters to you? And it's going to be a different answer, and it's going to come from a different place, and it's going to have a quality of integration that is going to make it actionable. And now I have my whole system on board in a way that can move forward because we're no longer tapping that voice of authority that likes to command and knows what is true and tells what is good and bad. And we can now access the full intelligence of our compassionate heart. And so from that place, just noticing the difference of that two qualities of trying to motivate ourselves to do something that's important and the possible outcomes that are going to land at the end. And yeah, it has made a world of difference in what is possible for me when I'm not trying to like fight that gap. I'm actually trying to tend to that gap. And so I look forward to connecting with you on the dance floor, connecting with you through coaching or music, and just thank you so much.
Hello, does that sound okay? Yeah, okay, great. My name is Hannah Edmond. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I like to consider myself a bridge. So, really connecting modern science, modern medicine, and more of these traditional medicines like botanical medicine, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. So today I wanted to talk about the gut microbiome axis. And first off, what is an axis? Well, it's a bi or multi-directional pathway for communication between different systems of our body. And so this communication happens mostly through biochemicals. So things like neurotransmitters, hormones, cytokines. And these biochemical molecules travel along the nerve pathways and also the bloodstream. So the gut microbiome brain axis is really how does the brain communicate with our gut, and how does the microbiome communicate with our gut and our brain? So I have a couple little fun facts for you about our microbiome. We are what are called holobionts, and this is really a multicellular unit where we host many different microorganisms. the human body has 30 trillion human cells, whereas we host or have within us 39 trillion microbial cells. So we have more microbial cells than we do our actual human cells. And so I just like to think about this. We are not autonomous human beings, but really we're just like this complex world hosting like trillions of different microbes. And so the human microbiome is made up of bacteria, yeast, archaea, parasites, viruses, and protozoa. Now, I like to compare our knowledge of the human microbiome to the deep sea. And like what we know about each of those is really close to nothing. So roughly 77% of the human microbiome has not been mapped or studied yet. And what's more is that a lot of our knowledge about the microbiome is about bacteria. We know a lot about bacteria. However, we don't know a lot about viruses. And viruses outnumber bacteria within our microbiome 5 to 1. Also, what we know about the human microbiome is mostly based off of the Western population. So that leaves a huge gap of what we know about the microbiome, looking at non-Western populations. And the human microbiome differs like greatly from individual to individual. Our microbiome might vary by 90%. And, if we think about how much does our microbiome vary in a Western population, what's that difference in somewhere like in Africa, for example? And so we really don't know what a healthy microbiome looks like. We just simply don't. We don't have that knowledge yet. So what we know is that the majority of our microbiome, and I'm talking mostly about bacteria, is that it lives in the gut. And 90% of the bacteria that live in the gut are made up of the phyla, or a subgroup of bacteria called Firmicutes and Bacteroides. So just a little bit about the development of our microbiome. In the early stages of life, the diversity of our microbiome is pretty low. And then by the age of 2 or 3, the composition and the diversity of our microbiome is similar to that of what it is in adulthood. And so a lot of our microbiome is influenced by our mothers through vaginal birth and also breastfeeding. In fact, 3/4 of our microbiome in adulthood can be traced back to our mothers. And they've also found that babies who are delivered via cesarean section and who are not breastfed have a higher risk of allergies, asthma, celiac disease, and obesity. And then once we move into adulthood, our microbiome is pretty stable. There can be some life stressors that would affect our microbiome, but generally, like once we reach adulthood, that's what our microbiome looks like. And then by the age of 65, and we don't know why this is a fact, but as we age, especially by the age of 65, the composition, diversity, and the abundance of our microbiome starts to decline. And I also just wanted to point out that it's not necessarily what we do know about the health of the microbiome is not how many bacteria or viruses live within our microbiome, but rather the diversity of the microbiome is really important for the health. All right, so how does our microbiome love us? How does it take care of us and provide health? First of all, it creates energy sources and nutrients that our body cannot absorb through food and it cannot make on its own. So what it does is it ferments carbohydrates, indigestible carbohydrates like fiber, and that makes vitamins like K and B12, just as an example of a few. There's many more. It also helps to develop and educate our immune system. It protects us against pathogenic microbes. So, pathogenic microbes being viruses and bacteria that actually are harmful to our health. And then it communicates with our gut, brain, and our central nervous system. Alrighty, so how does the gut, brain, and microbiome talk with each other? Well, the microbiome makes metabolites, and these metabolites include mostly short chain fatty acids, secondary bile acids, and precursors to amino acids. So, with these metabolites, they act on the enteric nervous system. And the enteric nervous system is the nervous system that lives within our gut. And then, like many of our other speeches have discussed, the vagus nerve starts in our brainstem and it travels down our throat through our diaphragm, which means that, like, diaphragmatic breathing or deep belly breathing is really beneficial for our vagus nerve. But anyway, so it travels through our diaphragm and then interacts with our gut and the enteric nervous system. And so what they're finding is that the microbiome and all of the metabolites that it makes is acting on the enteric nerve fibers and thus communicating with the vagus nerve and thus communicating with the central nervous system and the brain. Let's see. So I talked a little bit about the metabolites, but let me talk a little bit more about them. So I mentioned short chain fatty acids, and I'll talk about short chain fatty acids in a little bit. But it also makes precursors to neurotransmitters and hormones. So, for example, the microbiome makes precursors to serotonin, dopamine, GABA, just to name a few. And then, interestingly, like what was already mentioned, is that 95% of the body's serotonin is stored in the enterochromaffin cells. And enterochromaffin cells are just a fancy name for all those little gut cells. And only 5% are stored in the central nervous system. So, just like the microbiome communicates with our brain and our central nervous system, the brain and the central nervous system also communicate with our microbiome. And the central nervous system and the brain really influence the gut microbiome through gut motility and intestinal transit time. So, meaning how fast does our food move throughout our intestines? I like to think of the microbiome as a lawn. You don't want it to necessarily like overgrow, but then you also don't want to chop it down. You need to fertilize it and really take care of it. So if we have a fast transit time, or our food is moving super fast throughout our intestines, that means that the bacteria don't really have time to like set up home or like nest in our intestines. Whereas if we have a really slow motility, the food is traveling super slow through the intestines, that means that some of the microbes can overgrow, and that can result in some disease processes like SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, or intestinal fungi overgrowth. And then also the brain and the nervous system really impact all of the digestive secretions that are needed to help keep the microbiome healthy. So this is like stomach acid and the pancreatic enzymes. So how do we love our microbiome? How do we love our bugs and really take care of them? First, I wanted to talk about just a couple of things that we know have a detrimental effect on the microbiome. And I say all of this, I just want to preface this with taking these into consideration when appropriate. So, for example, if you have sepsis or a crazy bacterial infection, please take your antibiotics. And also, a lot of these things in our world are simply not avoidable. And I don't want you to walk away just like having a lot of fear of the outside world, because our body is really resilient, and our microbiome is resilient, and it can jump back. So just trying to avoid these things when possible. So these things include antibiotics, pesticides, alcohol, tobacco smoke, a high intake of sugar, saturated fats and simple sugars, artificial sweeteners, emulsifiers, so things like polysorbate, which are found in some processed foods, microplastics, and then lack of exercise and sleep deprivation have also been shown to be detrimental to the microbiome. Okay, so further, like how can we love our microbiome? Interestingly, the microbiome has its own circadian rhythm. And what they're finding, so Firmicutes and Bacteroides, those are the two phyla of bacteria that are found in our gut. And what they're finding is that daytime feeding, eating during the daytime, favors the production of Firmicutes and short chain fatty acids. So those metabolites of our microbiome. And then nighttime fasting favors production of Bacteroides. And I always like to like see what is the modern scientific literature, how does that compare to what these more traditional medicines know or already know? And in traditional Chinese medicine, they recommend eating during the daytime and resting at night. So a famous quote that they use is, "Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper." And then furthermore, the digestive organs, and this is more from a Chinese medicine perspective, the digestive organs, the spleen and the stomach, are most active during 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. So they would say that eating during those times is better for your digestion. Okay. Furthermore, you can help your microbiome by prepping your digestive system in preparation for food. So, like stepping into that parasympathetic nervous system state, that rest and digest state before we eat. And you can do this through vagal nerve exercises, so things like deep belly breathing, humming. I kind of wonder why do we say yum when we really like a food? Because we're kind of like yumming or humming. Yeah. So humming, singing, and then also stimulating the bitter receptors on your tongue also stimulate the vagal nerve. So the vagus nerve. You can eat things like arugula, dandelion, or if you have a bitters tincture, that's really great. And then also just ensuring that we have adequate stomach acid reduction, adequate production of pancreatic enzymes. And if we're thinking more from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective, then we really want to help to support that digestive fire and especially the spleen. And in traditional Chinese medicine, they say that eating cold raw foods, and again, this is really based on your constitution, so it's different from person to person. But in general, eating cold raw foods can weaken the spleen and can weaken that like digestive fire. Okay, how do we feed our microbiome? This is through fiber. And I say this as a general recommendation. So certain conditions like SIBO, fiber is going to make some of their symptoms worse. So just take this as general recommendations. But indigestible carbohydrates or fiber is food for our microbiome. And this includes things like inulin, fructooligosaccharides, galactooligosaccharides, resistant starch, and soluble fiber. And so some of my favorite fiber foods include garlic, onions, artichoke, chicory root, lentils, asparagus. Those are all really great. And then one study found that microbes without fermentable fiber resulted in less production of short chain fatty acids. So you can have a super healthy microbiome or a really diverse microbiome. You could be taking a probiotic supplement, but if you don't have those fibers that the probiotics eat to make those short chain fatty acids, then, what are you doing? The short chain fatty acids are really important for our health. And they also found that short chain fatty acids help to secrete GLP-1. So that's the hormone that is, really talked about right now. And then lastly, botanical medicine or herbs are really high in polyphenols. And polyphenols are another thing that are not digestible by the small intestine, and thus the bacteria ferment them or they use it as food. Let's see. And then I get asked the question a lot, do you recommend probiotic supplements? And to be honest, I go back and forth just because the literature out there and the studies are really inconclusive. And some studies will say, yes, they're really beneficial. Others say, no, they have no benefit. So I can't really say for sure. It's, medicine is an art. It's not black and white. And we're continuing to find out more and more. But anyways, when in doubt, I always recommend getting your medicine through food. And we can get our probiotics through fermented food, like kimchi and sauerkraut and sourdough, kefir, yogurt. What's really nice about these fermented foods is that they have, I would say, hundreds of strains of bacteria. Whereas if we're getting a supplement with probiotics, there might be 20 strains of different bacteria. And again, the diversity, the number of strains of probiotics and bacteria is what we're finding makes up a really healthy microbiome. So, some key takeaways on how to love your microbiome would be to practice stress relieving exercises, practice vagal nerve exercises, protect your sleep, get daily movement. And this doesn't have to be exercise. Daily movement can be dance or any type of movement that really brings you a lot of joy. Eat your fiber and eat your fermented foods. Thank you.
I just want to invite us all to take 1 minute to just kind of shake it out, maybe do some stretches. We've been sitting for a while. So I'm going to shake it out. Yeah, just move your body if you need to grab a snack, if you need a bathroom. And wow, amazing work to all the speakers. This is so much fun. Woo! Is that better for the camera? That's great. And let's take about 30 seconds to finish up and then make your way back to your seats. I shouldn't do this on the other end of the stage because if I fall down, that would be entertaining anyway.
Yeah, and just a reminder that anytime through this, you're always welcome to grab a snack, get up and stretch, go to the bathroom. You just listen to your body, as all of our speakers have been reminding us. You wanna stay connected and help yourself feel safe and feel good. That's what we're here for. Okay, so this talk is called Love Your Future Self, a hack for achieving any goal. And this is going to be experiential, so it's not just going to be me talking, but it'll be some of me talking. But we're going to strengthen our imagination muscle. And I like to say that that's one of the most neglected muscles in the health and wellness and fitness world. So we're going to work with our imagination a little bit today. So let's dive right in. I want you to imagine a younger version of yourself. You're around 10 to 15 months old, so you're a toddler. And you're welcome to close your eyes if you'd like or keep them open, whatever feels good. You are surrounded by people who are walking on 2 feet. And yet the best that you can do right now is to stumble along on hands and knees. You keep trying to pull yourself up on chairs or little tables that are around you. And sometimes you can even take a few steps forward, standing up, but then inevitably you stumble and fall. So you went through this process for months, and now here you are, walking like a pro. Well, you're sitting right now, but you're able to walk. You may not even really remember this time at all, except for that little moment of going back there. But chances are good that during this time, when you actually were a toddler, you imagined yourself walking in your mind as you saw all the adults walking around you. You held on to that vision in your mind, and you never gave up. You kept going. At that moment, as a toddler, you were loving your future self and the future possibilities that were available to you. Some people might object that loving a future version of you might mean rejecting or putting down the present version. But when you think back, do you love the version of you who stumbled and fell and kept trying any less than the version of you later who was able to walk pretty well and confidently? What do we think? Do we love that? It's about the same, right? So we don't love one version more than the other. It's just 2 different parts of ourselves. You might even have a little more fondness for the part of you that was trying so hard but kept falling again and again and again because you see how hard that toddler you is trying. So when you choose to love future you, the part of you that has figured out some things that current you just doesn't quite get yet, this doesn't mean that you love the present version of you any less. You might even have more compassion for yourself as you are, for how hard you're trying, when you take some time to imagine and love a future more capable you. The way I see it, there are 3 steps to loving future you. One is what we did in the beginning, and that was actually imagining a past version of you. But you would imagine a version of you who is more capable, who is closer to living your dream life. And that could be in any area. Number 2 would be spend time with people who are experiencing or embodying how you want future you to be. This strengthens your belief that what you want is actually possible. Toddler, you did this without even trying. Toddler, you was surrounded by people who are walking around confidently. This helped the younger version of you to know that it is possible to walk, and even likely, as long as you kept trying. And that leads us to step number 3 of loving future you. And that is to get up and keep going every single time you stumble as you move toward your dream life. Keep doing that and you will succeed. What if that toddler version of you that you connected with at the beginning, what if that toddler kept falling again and again and stumbling and then just gave up and said, oh, walking is not for me. I'm just going to crawl for the rest of my life. They didn't. So don't you ever give up when you're going towards the life of your dreams. If you just keep going, every time you stumble, you will succeed. So back to number one, imagine. There's a fascinating thing that happens in the brain when we imagine something. The exact same neurons are fired off as if we are actually experiencing the thing. So take a moment once again to imagine yourself smelling an orange. Maybe you see an orange peel. Maybe someone near you is actually opening an orange and eating it. Or maybe it's you. If you were able to imagine that experience on any level, even if you didn't see it completely clearly, a part of your brain was literally experiencing an orange and firing off the exact same neurons it would fire off when you do smell an orange. When you imagine yourself in a different way than how you are right now, maybe it's more capable, maybe it's more fit, more abundant, whatever it is, the brain experiences a similar thing. It becomes like a memory, a pattern in the brain that you create when you imagine this. If you do this often enough, it creates something called cognitive dissonance. The reality experienced by your brain in the moment feels different than the reality you're imagining. And it's almost like an internal switch is turned on. Click, compelling your brain to bring those two versions of reality closer together. This cognitive dissonance can actually make it easier to change your life than you ever thought possible. And it all starts from imagining and loving future you, a version of you that has figured out some things, that is experiencing more of the life of your dreams. I use this exact process to transform my body in a way that was quicker and easier than I ever thought possible. When I started this process, I was actually at 220 pounds, carrying over 50 pounds of excess weight, trying all sorts of things to let go of that weight. None of them really worked for more than a month or two. I started to imagine how I wanted to feel. Sorry, I'm making the camera more difficult. I started to imagine how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to look, not just every once in a while, but every single day. And it was usually morning and evening. I imagined what it would be like to feel food neutrality. And as somebody who struggled with food addiction for years, that was not very easy for me to imagine. But food neutrality, what it looked like to me in my imagination, was to be in a room full of cookies, breads, and ice cream, and to not have any cravings to any of it, to feel completely neutral. What I found was that I started discovering information, ideas, and practices that supported me in creating the shift from where I was to where I wanted to be. I've now actually experienced food neutrality many times, though I don't always live there, to tell you the truth. It still feels a little weird, to be honest with you. I also was able to let go of over 70 pounds in less than 6 months, and it all started with loving future me. I still absolutely adore the past version of me, the one who didn't know how to do these things, how to let go of the excess weight, or how to experience food neutrality. And now it's time for you to try this and to go even deeper. So it's important to get into a state of relaxation before you imagine future you. This helps you to tap into something called alpha brain wavelengths. These are the same wavelengths that are present just as you're waking up in the morning and right before you go to sleep. So they're present in that in-between sleep and waking time. Alpha brain wavelengths connect you to your subconscious mind. That's a deeper level of the mind than what we experience in our day-to-day reality as we move through the world. According to some psychologists, the subconscious mind is responsible for over 80% of our day-to-day decisions. You definitely want to have that part of your mind on board as you're trying to create any change in your life. So now allow yourself to just start to relax. Really allow yourself to feel comfortable in your chair. You can shift around a little bit if that would feel good. And just notice your breath coming in and out. Maybe let your eyes soften and close. Imagine a wave of relaxation moving down from the top of your head to the bottoms of your feet, relaxing your face and your head, relaxing your neck, your shoulders, arms, your heart, your upper back, your abdomen and all the organs in your abdomen, your whole torso, your hips, upper legs, your shins, calves, and your feet. Allowing your whole body to just feel super relaxed and comfortable in this moment. Allowing any kind of stress or tension to drop away from you. You can always pick it up later if you decide. But in this moment, no one needs anything from you. Just allow yourself to be, allow yourself to relax. And with every exhale, let yourself go deeper and deeper into relaxation. And from here, imagine a big movie screen in front of you, maybe like the one that we used earlier today for the movie. On this screen, you see an image of yourself, a confident, capable image of yourself, doing something that feels out of reach to the current version of you. Maybe they're moving in a way that you haven't done before. Maybe they're creating something that you have no idea how to do yet. Maybe they're succeeding financially in a bigger way than you've experienced so far. Maybe connecting with the people in your life in a more loving way than you thought possible. Or maybe they're just experiencing more joy and energy and health and vitality on a day-to-day basis. Whatever it is, take a few moments and just witness future you going through life, capable, confident, present. Maybe there's a sense of joy pervading the whole scene. Now it's time to step into this future version of you. Just see yourself walking towards the screen and you step into the screen. It's your imagination, so you can do this. You get to experience life as this future you. Really feel what it's like to be that version of you. Notice how you move, how you feel, how capable, confident, energetic, and joyful you are. Then I want you to just double that feeling. Now triple that feeling. Just feel the joy, energy, and confidence coursing through you. Notice how good that feels. And take a few moments to just connect with this future version of you and notice what you feel inspired to do as this future version. That's a little bit more capable and confident than this current version of you, but no better, just different. So just connect with that version for a few more moments, enjoying life and doing things as that version of you. In a moment, I'll count you back from 5 to 1. But before I do, remember that this is a place in your imagination that you can visit again and again. And every time you visit this place, you get closer to creating this reality in your life. You might notice when you come back that you have greater clarity about what your next steps are. You might notice just feeling more confident and capable in general. Starting to come back now. 5, noticing your body once again. 4, noticing more energy and joy flowing through you. 3, feeling open to the wonderful possibilities that await you. 2, just noticing your breath going in and out. And 1, opening your eyes, feeling yourself present and energetic. This is just a small glimpse of what it can feel like to love future you. Experiment with this, play with it, and let me know how it goes for you. You can find me in the Thrive community. There's more information about that over there. It's www.skool.com, SKOOL/release the weight. And my contact info is also in your program. I'd love to hear how this is for you as you keep experimenting with it. And just between you and me, one of my imaginings about my future me was actually being on a stage speaking. And I'm not perfect. I'm stumbling myself through it. I'm stumbling like the toddler me stumbled through it. And luckily I didn't fall on my face, not yet anyway. But yeah, just keep imagining that future version of you and whatever you want to create in your life, that can help you. That can help you get closer to it. Thank you so much. And thank you all for being here.
Perfect timing. Welcome. Yay, glad you made it. I think it's clicked in there, just, yeah.
All
And you can
right.
also click if you want.
What would you prefer? I'll just leave it there. Yeah. Well, good evening. Some of you know me. I'm Ryan. And if you haven't got a chance to meet me yet, feel free to say hi. Um, I would apologize for being late, but I'm not sorry at all. Because while I really wanted to experience the conference, I'm hoping I get to see the recording later. I was at Meow Wolf, and you should go. Um, and the pretty amazing part of Meow Wolf for me is not like experiencing the event. If you don't know what it is, feel free to look it up. There's YouTube's all kinds of things for it. It's thinking about the person who made the room and trying to understand what they were creating and all of the different ideas that they were creating in these rooms of illusion and fun and mayhem. And that kind of creativity that lives in all of us. And often it takes seeing someone take their creativity and go to an amazing place like Meow Wolf to unlock that's inside of all of us. That just one little idea, one little movement, one little focus, one little change, and we get to see this whole world expand in front of us. Today's talk is really along the idea of we can create that in us really at any point. And I want to make sure I'm being very honest about it, that I'm oversimplifying everything today because I got 15 minutes. And someone I asked to read this said, hey, if I got this talk, I would just feel like I don't do any of this already. That just would make me feel worse about myself. Or I've tried and it hasn't helped. And they were talking about perpetually living in fight or flight. And if that's the case for you, if you are in a place where your nervous system cannot be regulated, there is a lot of work that has to be done before some of these easy things can happen. And I'd encourage you to find that available work out there in the world. Maybe a little forest meditation, maybe some time with yourself, maybe your time with friends. But none of this is easy. When we put it in a speech, it always kind of sounds easy. We put it together well and we rehearse the words and we form them in a way that makes it sound like, well, anyone can do this. But we all know if anyone could just love themselves, this whole world would be a much better place. Because simply put, we're taught the story to tell about ourselves is that we're not good enough. And that we have to perform better in order to be loved. And that story we repeat until we're adults and we're still telling ourselves that I have to perform better to be loved. We have a choice to play in this because we're the ones repeating it. We were told this originally, maybe by the world, maybe by classmates, maybe by family members, but at some point it became a part of who we are and a part of the story we tell ourselves about who we are. I'd ask you to take a moment right now and place your hand on your heart. Early music theory based all music tempo off of the heartbeat, which makes a lot of sense. It's the first sound we all hear. When you're in your mother's womb, the swishing and swashing and the noise of that is all coming back to the heartbeat of mom. And that's carried throughout our whole life. And as we feel the steady rhythm beneath it, we whisper to ourselves, I am here, I am worthy, I am enough. Now, we start with mantras that we can believe. Because we've really learned that through research, If we say a mantra to ourselves that we don't believe, it doesn't do anything. It's just like I'm Superman. I can say it, but no one in here believes it, and I don't believe it myself. But I am here. Well, that's true. I am worthy. That one's a little harder. I am enough. It's the beginning of loving yourself. The small act is the beginning of everything I'd like to explore. This talk is titled Your Identity Becomes Your Reality. The story you tell yourself about who you are doesn't just describe your life, it literally creates it. Think about it. Every decision you make, every opportunity you seize or let pass, every relationship you attract or push away flows from the version of you that you believe in. When that inner identity is rooted in self-love instead of self-criticism, your outer world transforms. Today, in the next 15 minutes, 12, your outer world will have the power to be what you define it as. We're going to look at the science of how identity forms, how we can deliberately change it, and the role nervous system regulation plays in making that change safe and lasting. The two powerful quotes that can light our path I'll end with, and by the end, I hope you leave ready to rewrite your own story of compassion and courage. Let's start with foundation, identity formation. Recent peer-reviewed research shows that our sense of self isn't fixed at birth or even in childhood. It continues to evolve, especially through adolescence and young adulthood, through the stories we construct about our lives. In a 2026 scoping review published in the Journey Identity, researchers Cecilia Maria Esposito and Giovanni Strangolani analyzed dozens of studies on narrative identity development. They found that narrative coherence increases with age in healthy adolescence. It's kind of a weird sentence, and I'm going to read it again, and then I'll talk about what it means. They found that narrative coherence increases with age in healthy adolescence, meaning we get better at weaving our experiences into a cohesive, meaningful autobiography. We get better at telling our story. We tell it to strangers, we tell it to the checkout clerk, we tell it to everyone we meet, and we tell it to ourselves. Crucially, this coherence is built through relationships, peers who listen, families who reflect us back with kindness, the stories we tell them. The review notes, constructing coherent autobiographical narratives is related to the psychological well-being. In other words, when we learn to tell our story with honesty, we feel better. That's self-love in action, turning fragmented pieces into a whole that feels worthy of love. But we start with honesty. And here's the exciting part. The identity isn't just something that happens to us, it's intentionally shaped. Multiple 2025 studies show we can change our self-concept and watch our reality shift in response. First, consider this future self-continuity interventions. We just had one, so that makes it easier. The idea of thinking about our future self has become this powerful tool that we can shape who we will become. In a 2025 systematic review, Emily R. Grecken and colleagues examined 23 studies where adults were helped to feel more connected to that future self through writing letters to their older self, to writing letters to a future self, viewing age-progressed photos. So simply making yourself looking older and connecting to that. Vivid visualization exercises like we just went through. The results range from a small to very large effects on real-world behaviors. More saving, better health choices, less procrastination, even reduced unethical decisions. I'm better at making good decisions when I'm connected to an older version of myself. Your identity literally becomes your reality. Because when you identify with your identity, and that becomes vivid and a lovable version of your future self, you start acting like that person today. Second, even in the context of depression, where self-concept is often most damaged, change is possible. A 2025 meta-analysis by R.L. Dean and colleagues reviewed 20 controlled trials with over 2,000 young people aged 11 through 24. They found that treatments for depression produced a small but significant improvement in self-perception, separate from the reduction in depressive symptoms. So they weren't matching the reduction in depressive symptoms. Someone who became less depressed didn't get greater self-identity changes or vice versa. But the very act of treating depression itself helped people change their view of self. The researchers noted that young people's self-perception are sensitive to change, but noted that current therapies could be even more powerful if they targeted self-concept directly. This tells us self-love isn't a side effect of feeling better. It can be an active ingredient that rewires who we believe we are. Now, none of this rewriting happens in a vacuum of fear or stress. And that's really why this is complicated. When we become fearful or stressed, our system for rewriting shuts down. We can no longer think of a future self or think of ourselves in a positive light when there's fear or stress involved. We simply stop thinking about us. We think about how to live. That's it. And one of the most common things I run into as a mental health therapist is people who have been living in fight or flight for years. And they live in it so often, they actually don't know what a baseline feels like. And so we have to go through practices with it. We go through neurofeedback or biofeedback or just mindfulness. And we're trying to just get them to a place of regulated. Not depressed, not hurting themselves, not hurting others, just regulated. Because if we can't start there, the rest of the work doesn't happen. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory, updated in the 2025 publication, reminds us that our automatic nervous system constantly scans for safety or danger, a process called neuroception. When we're in a state of chronic fight, flight, or shutdown, the brain prioritizes survival over self-exploration. I want to read that again. When we're in a state of chronic fight, flight, or shutdown, the brain prioritizes survival over self-exploration. We've often known that self-exploration is what we needed. You'll hear people even say, I have to find myself. I need to figure out who I am. After a big change, you'll see men and women say, I don't know who I am without being married, or without my kids being home, or without the job that I identified as. We cling to old familiar identities, even painful ones, because they feel safe in their predictability. But when we deliberately move into the ventral vagal state, the rest, digest, and connect zone, we create the physiological safety needed to rewrite our story. Simple practices do this. I'm hoping that we practice a lot of those today. But simple as slow diaphragmatic breathing, 4 seconds in, 6 seconds out. I wish this was something we were teaching in grammar school because it's so incredibly simple. It's just not part of our culture. Gentle humming, singing to stimulate the vagus nerve, co-regulation with a trusted friend. I did this as a kid. I didn't even know it was a therapeutic resolve. I listened to my mom sleep and I matched her breathing. It's co-regulation. I teach people to do it today. Research consistently shows that once the nervous system feels safe, the prefrontal cortex can engage in reflective work of narrative identity building. Self-love becomes embodied. Your self learns, I am safe to be me, and your mind follows. So how do we pull this all together in our daily life? The 3 practical steps that I include today and that the science covered: rewrite your narrative daily. This is that time in the mirror. This is a journal entry, 5 minutes with prompts like, what story am I telling about myself today? What kinder chapter can I add to my story today? What kind of friend do I want to be? What kind of father should I look like? This builds the coherence Esposito and Strangolini describe. Connect to your future self with love. Now, some of the suggestions suggest to do this every day. I just can't. It's just a lot for me. But I have done this exercise, which is really simple. Write a letter from your 80-year-old self to you today and thank yourself for those things that you choose that helps your 80-year-old self. This self-thanking present you for choices made out of self-love has been shown to show measurable behavioral change. The last one is start with regulating your nervous system. Before any identity work, do 60-second physiological sigh, 2 quick inhales through the nose, long exhale. I said the 4 seconds earlier and the 6 seconds. This one works too. And this one actually, I love to show because it's just so weird to do, but it works really quickly. And that's just breathing in through your nose as long as you can. And when it feels like you can't anymore, you do it again. And you wait as long as you can hold your breath. And then you let it all out. And I'll just demonstrate that today because it's so stinking simple. Now, there's actually martial artists throughout history who have used this exercise. There's a description in an ancient Japanese text of them doing it in water and trying to not make any ripples on that exhale. And what that does is it completely calms your whole body when you're trying to exhale as slow as possible. And if that's what you're concentrating on, that's what your body will do. Just like the rest of this idea, what you're focusing on is what you become. To anchor these ideas and inspiration, let me share 2 quotes that have guided my own journey, and that I hope will guide yours. They're very common quotes, but I hope they can be thoughtful about today. First is Brene Brown. I now see how owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. Owning the story, flaws, scars, and all, and choosing love anyway is the exact courage required to shift from an old identity of not enough to a reality of I am whole. Second, from George Bernard Shaw, life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. You don't have to wait for some magical revelation. You get to create the version of you that loves itself fiercely, and then watch your entire reality rise to meet that new identity. It's amazing when you love yourself fiercely, how obvious it is when the other people in your life aren't doing that. It becomes really, really giant red flag when I love myself fiercely and I am telling myself every day I'm enough. I'm worthy. I'm here. And you see someone who's not here, not worthy, doesn't believe you're enough. It becomes something that is the next step in this process, which is finding people who will also say those things back to you. So today I invite you, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when you're not depressed, to choose one small act of self-love. Breathe. Place that hand on your heart again and tell yourself, I am creating a new story and I am safe to live it. When you love the person you are becoming, the world has no choice but to reflect that love back. Thank you. I'm rooting for all of you.
So a huge thank you again to all the speakers. This has been amazing, like beyond my wildest dreams. Um, we do have some time set aside so that you can do a question and answer with the speakers. So I thought maybe we could have all the speakers kind of come up here. We can turn the lights down, maybe turn the lights up in the room. And you can ask questions related to the talk, or they can be just regular questions from your life. You know, we're just people here and we're having a conversation. So it doesn't have to be related to the talk, but it can be. So we'll just make some time for a Q&A so we can interact and make this a conversation. And thank you so much to everybody for just being part of this and coming today, sharing your time with us. It means a lot. Thank you.